most watched news channel in Europe.
Hi, I'm John Malos. Welcome to this live edition of Connect with Me on the showroom floor at Ventura TV on this day. Today it's on the air, off the presses. We'll talk to somebody, a fishing expert. We're going to take you fishing with a guy from the Fresno Bee. He's been here before, and let me tell you, my friends, he is an expert in his field, believe it or not. 436-ME-TV, option 11. Hey, we got an open phone line. You can call in. One of our favorite guests is in the house today. Back in a moment. Back here on the program, my friends, and I want to congratulate Dr. Thomas Casagrande, and he's done an outstanding job the last 20 years. As a matter of fact, my friends, he's sponsoring today's program. He's out there at 20/20 Optometrics, so if you need a new pair of glasses like I do, I've got to go out there and see him. He's got more than 2,000 frames to choose from. Hey, not a problem. He's out there located at Shaw and Blackstone, right near Moore Furniture. He's been there, and we thank him for the sponsorship on the program today. I want to mention, as I do each and every day, where you're watching us, how you can get us. You're watching us right now live on Comcast channel 187 and 43.6, and now, of course, 13.1. The replay comes later in the day at 2 o'clock on 13.6 on YouTube, and then 8 o'clock tonight, 4.6 Biz TV. Now, that's all over the air broadcast. And then later, of course, we are on YouTube 24/7. You can watch us any time of day or night that you like. And then the Twitter account, can't forget about that. You can follow me on Twitter at John Malos, Me TV. Our thanks again to Dr. Thomas Casagrande, and I want to get right to one of the main issues I do want to talk about today. Just briefly, we're going to touch on this because it happened late on Friday, way after we went off the air on this program. Leonard Nimoy, the man known as Mr. Spock, died last Friday in his Bel Air home, that's near Los Angeles. He died from pulmonary or heart complications that he had suffered for years due to years and years and years of smoking. Of course, he developed a cult-like following with that hit television show called Star Trek. It was the Trekkies that kept this thing going, even, well, years and years after this thing went off the air. Now, keep in mind, you can watch Star Trek right here on Me TV Fresno. We're going to tell you in a moment, but first, we want to take you back to the 1960s/70s when Star Trek was a huge hit on television. Here is Mr. Spock.
Mr. Spock, are you all right?
Yes, I believe no permanent damage was done.
What happened?
The occipital area of my head seems to have impacted with the arm of the chair.
No, Mr. Spock. I meant, what happened to us?
Being a red-blooded human obviously has its disadvantages.
Fortunately, my ancestors spawned in another ocean than yours did. My blood salts are quite different.
My father is from the planet Vulcan. I am half Vulcanian. Vulcanians do not speculate. I speak from pure logic. I prefer the concrete, the graspable, the provable.
You'd make a splendid computer, Mr. Spock.
That is very kind of you, Captain. Fascinating is a word I use for the unexpected. In this case, I should think interesting would suffice. I'm happy the affair is over. A most annoying, emotional episode.
Smack right in the old eye. Oh, I'm sorry. In your case, it would be about here.
The fact that my internal arrangement differs from yours, Doctor, pleases me no end.
I see you've noticed the ears. They're actually easy to explain.
Perhaps the unfortunate accident I had as a child.
The unfortunate accident he had as a child. He caught his head in a mechanical rice picker.
Live long and prosper.
Oh man, he will be missed. The Trekkies out there, heartbroken. Even William Shatner, his best friend, one of his best friends, longtime friends, was heartbroken, he said, and just devastated. Although he could not attend the funeral yesterday for Leonard Nimoy, he took quite a few hits on Twitter, Facebook, and all of social media, heavily criticized for not attending the funeral of Leonard Nimoy. But William Shatner said he just simply could not attend. He had a charity function to go to. Leonard Nimoy, by the way, back in 1997, published his first autobiography entitled I Am Not Spock. A few years later, back in 1995, what did I say, 1997? That was 1977 that the first autobiography came out. The second one, 1995, entitled I Am Spock. So Dr. Spock, Leonard Nimoy, dying at the age of 83. You can watch Star Trek right here on weekends on Saturday nights on MeTV Fresno. All right, to the main topic in the drought. We're talking about the lack of water once again, and the feds are not going to give the allocation due to the farmers once again. The Central Valley Project, many people think right now, according to some, is actually broken. So what about the fishing industry? Where does it fit in as far as Millerton and all the other reservoirs and lakes and streams right here in the Central Valley fit in? We're going to roll the videotape, my friends, and show you what I'm talking about. Millerton Lake, look at this, 37% capacity. The video of Millerton was taken from a drone. As you can see the mound in your screen, usually covered by water. Not now, not in the last few years. In fact, the Sierra Nevada snowpack is less than 1/5 of its average size for this time of year, and the mountains provide roughly half of California's water supply for the entire summer. I can't get over how great that video looks. Not enough snow means not enough runoff, and that means you're looking for big bass, stripers, sturgeon, trout, salmon, and all the rest. Anglers may have a tougher time because of low water levels. And that's not just at Millerton Lake. That's all up and down the Central Valley. That is all up and down the state of California. We'll talk about that and much more here in the next hour on Connect with Me. Live in our studio right now is Roger George, the Fresno Bees fishing expert and a former Olympic decathlete out of Fresno State, who holds the record, by the way, for the biggest striper ever caught at Millerton Lake, which is only 37% capacity right now. We're going to take your phone calls. We'll talk about the devastating drought the last 4 years. We'll talk about how that is impacting the industry and recreation of fishing. 436 MeTV option 11. We're back with your phone calls on this, a Monday morning on Connect with Me. At 20/20 Optometric, your vision is their focus. Whether you're 5 or 65, Dr. Thomas Casagrande will get to know you, your lifestyle, and vision needs to ensure that your contacts or eyeglasses are a perfect fit and the right prescription every time. With the Valley's largest selection of eyewear, 20/20 has over 2,000 frames, including top designer brands like Coach, Tiffany, Prada, Ray-Ban, Oakley, and more. Eye exams start as low as $89, so call or stop by to schedule your appointment today.
From a top-secret location, it's the Spies Who Love Me, bringing together MeTV's top super spies to fight evil at a memorable moment's notice. They're daring.
That's right.
Brave.
Now what are we gonna do?
The best we can.
Suave.
Does that apply to me, Oscar?
Possibly.
And smart.
The old finger in the gun trick.
Maxwell Smart.
MeTV Fresno, channel 43.6 and Xfinity 187.
When you're looking for Whirlpool innovation and quality, who has the answers, the selection, the price? Ventura TV Appliance. With billions in nationwide appliance buying power, more than Home Depot and Best Buy combined, we'll help you save. Our low prices on Energy Star qualified Whirlpool appliances save you energy and money and pay no interest on select models when paid in full within 12 months. Ventura TV Appliance, serving you since 1951.
Back here on the program, on the air, off the presses on this day, and my time and my pleasure to welcome in Roger George again from the Fresno Bee. How are you, sir?
Very good, John. Thanks for having me back. I appreciate it.
Well, I appreciate you being here. I know you're a fishing expert, and I can't wait to get to some of these issues today here on the program. By the way, you can read Roger's column in the Fresno Bee each and every Wednesday in the sports section.
Correct.
And I noticed that not too long ago, about a week ago Sunday, there was an article in the Fresno Bee about Jim Bartko and you going out fishing, of course. And it was in the Sunday edition of the Bee. And I want to take a picture. There's a picture of, let's see, you're on the right, Jim is on the left, and that's a striper, right? 13 pounds?
Yep. And we were doing pretty well, and I was hoping that we might get a big fish, and that was not a gigantic fish, but it was a beautiful fish.
Pretty darn big to me, I'll tell you that.
Most of us would take it every day of the week.
Yeah, and there's the front page of the Bee a week ago Sunday up in the upper right-hand corner, and there is, now who wrote the article?
Mark Warzowski over at the Fresno Bee, and Mark, he asked me the day before we left, he knew I was going to go with Jim, and he said, well, can I tag along and go fishing too? And he knew we were catching some fish, so he was a smart sports writer, so he came along, and he wasn't intending to write an article, so the timing of everything, you couldn't have asked for a better day and the way it turned out.
How much does Jim Bartko know about fishing?
Jim knows a lot. He's actually a very good fisherman, and actually when I first got a hold of him and sat down and talked to him, and I was talking to him about track and field at Fresno State, which I think is going to really go through a resurgence. I told him, I said, well, do you fish? He goes, well, yeah. And I said, well, how'd you like to go fishing? Just kind of testing the water, and he goes, when? give me 2 times. Now that's a fisherman for you. So I thought this is a great guy for a sports director.
Well, he knows first of all that you're a fishing expert. I mean, he had to know that, and
yes.
He knows you write a column in the Fresno Bee every Wednesday.
He had been told that, yes.
Yeah, and so you guys went out, and you're going to go out again. Now, I do want to mention to our viewers that Jim Bartko, the athletic director at Fresno State, the brand new guy from Oregon, he was scheduled to be here on Thursday. Something came up with his son. He had to fly back to Oregon this week, so he's not going to be able to be here on Thursday, which was his scheduled day to be here as a guest. So we talked to his secretary. I actually talked to his secretary over the weekend, so we have rescheduled. He will be here, though. He is going to be a guest. He's not bailing out. Believe me, he's a good guy.
He's a great guy, and I think that we have some mutual friends together. When I was with Nike, professional sports decathlon for Nike, some of my friends in Oregon told me, I called up there and said, hey, tell me about Jim Bartko. And they said, this guy, how you got him is amazing. So we really have gotten somebody here that I don't think a lot of people here will be able to appreciate what he has done yet until they really find out more about him. But I think he'll be a real asset for us here.
Yeah, you were at his news conference. When was it held? Last Thursday. He talked about his 5-point plan, how he wants to improve the athletic program over there, and maybe you can help him with the track part because you're a former decathlete. Alongside Bruce Jenner in 1976, I want to add.
Yep. I went to he invited me to come to the press conference, and yes, I will be helping him with the track program, and Scott Windsor, the track coach out there. So we're going to try to get the alumni, and just like all the sports out there, reinvigorating and reconnecting, our community into the Fresno State sports, I think is a really big issue, and a lot of people are just waiting to be asked to be part of the program, and we know that it can be so much more.
Yeah. Hey, I want to talk to you about some of these issues before we get to any of the videotape and any of the photos. And that is, there are some issues that have come up here now with this drought because we'll get into it. We'll show the pictures when the time comes. But I want to talk to you about conservation. Now that there's been a drought for the last 4 years, a lot of farmers are not getting their allocations. So, we see the reservoirs dipping down below normal levels, like Millerton is at 37%, and we'll put the others up on the screen at a later time here on the program. But what about some of these issues like with conservation of resources, catching and release issues? Let's talk about some of those to begin with.
Once again, you're back to a balancing act. I grew up on a farm on the west side of the valley, out in the Five Points area, so I'm very aware of the issues farmers have. But by the same token, on the fish side, it's a resource that we have that's really a critical resource for a lot of industries that are all tied in recreationally and sports-wise in this area, leisure, the whole thing. So having a balance is very important, and we're very fortunate this year that we actually made it through this last year in better shape than I thought we would. I thought we'd have fish die-offs. I thought that we would have probably some real problems that might show up this summer with really low water levels, but we actually made it through fairly good. My hope was that this year we could rebound, having luckily escaped disaster last year. This year, I guess the jury's out as to how it's all going to go down. I know that they're actually storing water a little differently than they did last year, particularly in San Luis Reservoir. So they're going about it a little bit differently. So it's going to be interesting to see with these last storms, and if we get a good March, John, whether or not we're going to be able to make it through the way we should. But there are some reservoirs that are still holding very well. Millerton's holding actually better than I thought. San Luis is holding. They're actually up to 1.3 million out of 2.1 million total capacity. So it's actually up pretty good. And Shaver's holding fairly good too.
What about the public perception of fishing right now? Is it taking a dip a little bit because of the drought, the lack of water?
I think that people are concerned about it. I think that it's actually brought that more to the forefront, that people are feeling like, gosh almighty, I hope we don't lose our fisheries. And see, the Department of Fish and Wildlife, they plant cold water species. So they're planting trout and stuff like that. But they don't have a warm waters program. So bass and crappie and stripers and all that, they're not planted. So if we lose those warm water fish, which are very susceptible in summer to very high temperatures and low water, we could have a disaster which we couldn't really rebound from very easily.
Yeah, so the public perception is dipping a little bit, but there is a catch and release idea that every fisherman should adopt when they go out there on the boat, that you catch the fish but then you release it. Why is that good for the ecosystem?
Well, we got a couple things. One is with this lower water, obviously we don't want to catch all the fish out, and a couple of good fishermen could obviously decimate a good body of water and take a lot of fish out over a period of time. We've known that, we've seen that happen in bodies of water. So catch and release now, with low water levels, the fish do become more susceptible to being caught because you obviously have less water, more fish, and less area. They become stressed, but guys, if they catch them out, then once again, if you're catching out a lot of your big fish and not putting them back, particularly your big fish, your genetic pool is going to be affected. And those are the future of your fishery. So
the big fish, meaning like the stripers?
Whether it's big bass or big crappie or big, stripers, like you say, those fish are your spawning fish, and those are the ones that carry the genetic code basically for more big fish. There's a reason they get big. Okay. So that's important, but politically, catch and release is also, I think, a very important thing. The bass fishermen have been way ahead of the curve. They have been practicing catch and release for a long time. They realized way back in the late 60s that people really killing bass, bringing giant stringers of bass was not politically really very correct, and so they backed off of that, went to catch and release. That industry has thrived because of it. The other groups of fishermen, for the non-put and take type fisheries like rainbow trout, like planting, catching them out, they need to follow that more. We need to do more of that in the striper industry. We need to do more of that in, I think, the panfish industry too, like crappie, that type of thing.
Yeah. Hey, we got an open line here on a Monday. It's Roger George time, on the air, off the presses. He's from the Fresno Bee, talking about fishing here in the Central Valley and throughout the state of California. With the water levels being down, is it a problem? You can call in at 436-MeTV option 11. Dr. Thomas Casagrande is our sponsor today here on Connect with Me. We're back in a moment.
The Ballad of Andy and Barney. Andy and Barney were lawmen, bravest you ever did see. Warned every crook in the record book to stay out of Mayberry. They were the law.
Yes, they were the law, and they didn't know fear.
The Andy Griffith Show.
I guess to sum it up, you could say there's 3 reasons why there's so little crime in Mayberry. There's Andy, and there's me, and baby makes 3.
Now on MeTV Fresno.
Back here on the program, Roger George is here, thanks to Dr. Thomas Casagrande. And, you know, I want to put up the first of a series of pictures. We already saw Millerton Lake. No reason to show that again. We can put up San Luis Reservoir, 63% capacity right now. Let's talk about some of these reservoirs. That's San Luis right there, as you can see. And, Roger, are we seeing fewer and fewer fish because the water levels are so low?
Actually not. The water levels have been sufficient to maintain the populations that we've had. And a couple of years ago, about 4 or 5 years ago, we had a really big water year, and we had a really good spawn that occurred. So actually, the numbers of fish have been holding very well. But
that's good.
But the problem has been that when you get down to the end of the summer and you get down to a very small reservoir, and obviously heat with a lot of fish in it, that's when you get the stress. That's the thing we want to avert.
San Luis Reservoir, as we take a look at it here, what's the capacity here? And you know, you were out there over the weekend, right?
Yes, I was. As a matter of fact,
look?
It looks really good. The fact is that island that you're looking at right there, I caught fish off the top of that island, so I was fishing right over the top of it. So the water was about 30 feet over the top of it, so it's actually higher than that picture.
A little bit higher than the picture.
Yes,
then.
it is.
Okay.
It's been changing very rapidly lately, but right now it's a 1.3 million acre feet. They're pumping water into the reservoir now.
It's still low, though.
It's still down 63%, like you're saying. 2.1 million acre feet is the total capacity, about 1.3. So actually, we're running ahead of what all the other reservoirs are. But once again, that reservoir has federal water and also state water that runs in there. So I
the
think
feds control what goes in.
There is some control that goes on in that, and DWR actually controls the dam and all that.
All right, let's put up Eastman. This one, very low, only 8% capacity right now. Have you been out there lately?
Eastman I have not been to Eastman. I used to fish Eastman. I've fished Eastman all my life. It's a great lake, and right now, it's holding a lot of fish. The problem has been it's been so doggone low, so there's a channel. And there's guys, if you can get out there and not scrape your boat all up, well, you can catch some fish. It's starting to come back up again. There's a little bit of water that's come into it, but the fishing has picked up now that we're in the spring. So I'm hoping that maybe we'll get some more, but that lake has been one of the ones that's been dramatically affected.
Is this one of the lakes where you're going to see fewer fish because it is so low?
It's one of the ones that could be in danger if we got to the end of the summer and had a real heat wave. That could be one of them that could be affected. That'd be the way it would be affected.
Okay, we've got an open line here, 436-MeTV, option 11. How about Hensley? Let's put up the picture of Hensley, and not much better. It's 7% capacity here. That looks awful.
Hensley,
that just looks terrible.
Hensley has been one of the most affected lakes. There for quite a while, you couldn't even put a boat in off the ramps. So that just happened a month or so ago where you could put boats in again and fish it. So it's really down. The fishing has been fairly poor there all year. The fish need obviously water to do all the things they do. And so it really has been affected, hardly any water coming into the lake, bringing nutrients and all that. So that's been one of the ones that's been really affected dramatically.
Okay, how about Shaver? Let's take a look at Shaver Lake. Right now, according to the Fresno Bee, 47% capacity, and this is, I know 40%, so you might as well say it's half full, okay, half full, but even with it being half full, look how drained it is.
No doubt about it. We're down way below what traditionally this time of the year we should have. The only good news that I know of is from what I understand from Edison is that they're going to be holding the lake longer into the summer at a higher level. So they're telling all the people that have boats there and all that they're going to be maintaining a level. That's what I've read, and that's what I've gotten in my reports. So that part of it, I'm glad to hear that they're planning to do that. So maybe these last storms may help to, give us a little more leeway.
Yeah. All right, talking about the drought here and some of the effects on some of these reservoirs. Pine Flat, not too good, holding steady at 16% right now. Let me ask you something as we look at these photos, and we took a look at Millerton, and I was out at Millerton not long ago with my son, and it's just devastating out there. Have you ever seen it? In all the years you've been in the Central Valley, have you ever seen the reservoirs this low?
Only one other time. I believe it was like in the early 1970s. There was one time where we had a drought, and Millerton was way down to, it went down to like 120,000 acre feet. Right now it's at 190. So it went way down, and Pine Flat went way down, and it was down to where it was down just a little puddle. So there was one time before when we had that. But the problem we got right now is capacity. Even if we have a really good water year with the change from that time till now, our population and all that, we have a different paradigm going on here in the valley as far as storage, amount of usage going on, building, and all the other factors. So it's.
But this has to do with rain and snow and runoff.
Yes.
Basically, you're talking, if you don't have enough snow in the mountains, these reservoirs come spring and summertime are not going to be full to capacity.
Not at all. Not at all. We're going to have to obviously, you know, and conservation, like you talked about, my understanding is that Fresno has actually seen a drop in water usage per person, which is really fantastic. But, you know, once again, I think I said this on your program before, the sad part about this is that we knew this was all coming 2-3 years ago, that we could see this, and if it happened, you know, if we had several years, conservation should have happened a couple of years ago with a lot of watering and all the other things that we could have done to moderate it. We could have saved ourselves a lot of water during that time.
Yeah, so you're saying conservation certainly would have helped some of these reservoirs in terms of storage.
Absolutely.
Yeah, they'd be up a little bit more than they are now.
You know, we let the cow get out of the barn and out the fence, and now we're trying to put it back in, and it's been long gone. And
not so easy.
You know, and so conserving when you have almost nothing is obviously different than conserving when you're anticipating and being proactive.
It's going to take an unusual snow or rain year to get these back to normal, I would assume. I mean, it's
no doubt about it. Even if we have a really super year and we can fill everything to capacity, we still don't have the capacity because there's been no change in our policy or capacity since the last reservoir that was built was 1980 or whatever it was, New Melones Reservoir. So you really don't have our capacity. A lot of that water would go out to the ocean unless we did something to store it underground or something.
Yeah. Okay, we got to take a break. Roger George is here from the Fresno Bee, 436-MeTV option 11. We got the phone line open if you want to call in and chime in. Hey, Dr. Thomas Casagrande has chimed in. We thank him for the sponsorship on today's program. Back in a moment. At 20/20 Optometric, your vision is their focus. Whether you're 5 or 65, Dr. Thomas Casagrande will get to know you, your lifestyle, and vision needs to ensure that your contacts or eyeglasses are a perfect fit and the right prescription every time. With the Valley's largest selection of eyewear, 20/20 has over 2,000 frames, including top designer brands like Coach, Tiffany, Prada, Ray-Ban, Oakley, and more. Eye exams start as low as $89, so call or stop by to schedule your appointment today.
Is taking care of laundry taking too much of your time? Have you become a missing mom? With a new fast, efficient washer and dryer from Ventura TV Video Appliance, you'll spend more of your day the way you want. Save now on Frigidaire's Advanced Affinity Laundry Pair. Let Frigidaire save you energy, water, and time. Don't spend your life on laundry. Upgrade today at Ventura TV Video Appliance and save.
We're back here on the program talking about the devastating drought and the effects it is having on fishing. Is there anything I didn't ask you in terms of how much effect this is having on the fishing industry? Is it having a huge, big, gigantic effect, or maybe in moderation?
You know, John, the impact has been like, dominoes falling over. What you have is obviously you have the recreational industry that's obviously affected, and that deals with everything from RVs. But a lot of the fishing stores that are here in Fresno in the Valley, a lot of those have been affected. All the West Coast here, a lot of the retailers have been heavily affected. So it's had a big impact, and a lot of those guys have gone out of business because obviously it's been, you're dealing with people's extra dollars. And if they don't see that there's a chance to go fishing and they think the water's down, they're not going to go. And I saw a lot of people this year in guiding that didn't go fishing because they thought that the water was down so low that why do it? And they didn't realize that we actually had more water, like in San Luis, than we thought we would.
Yeah, talk a little bit about the difference between recreational fishing and people that actually do it for a living, and the difference between, say, fishing at Millerton and if you go out ocean fishing. Big difference, huh?
Gigantic difference. So those are two, you got cat and dog kind of scenarios here. Fish are fish, and they react to a lot of the same kinds of things, but obviously fish in the ocean are more tidal oriented, very affected by water temperatures. That's why a lot of times they use satellite imaging to look at water temperatures out in the coast to decide where the albacore or salmon or whatever are going to be. Obviously you have food fish and all that. So off the coast there's a lot of variables that are different obviously than in a freshwater fishery. Freshwater fisheries are affected a lot by inflows of water which bring in nutrients and food. The whole chain is affected. So that is really a big factor. And as biologically, as a reservoir gets larger, the fish have more room. They biologically explode. It's a reaction that fish have when they have more food and more room, that they automatically spawn and more successfully do that. That's kind of the way Mother Nature seems to work.
Yeah, so there's a huge difference from a biological standpoint.
Yes.
In ocean fishing and fishing, say, at San Luis.
Very much so.
Yeah, okay. I want to get to some of the pictures that you have taken on some of your fishing trips. We've seen the ones with you and Jim Barco about a week and a half ago, almost 2 weeks ago now, where they caught that big striper out there, 13 pounds. That was at San Luis, right?
Yeah.
On your boat, okay. Yeah. We do have a series of other photos, and as we get to the photos, that's your boat right there, right?
Yep. I got a 21-foot fiberglass Starcraft, and anyhow, it's designed to be a boat that I can use on big water, the deep V, and yet it's actually a walleye boat, and I'm sponsored by Starcraft back east, and that's used in the Great Lakes. So you don't see that boat out here, but it can get up to high speeds. I got a 250 on it, so I can get up to high speed like a bass boat, but yet I can also handle big water like San Luis is.
And you say you don't see a boat out here like this. What's the difference between this boat and, say, a boat made on the West Coast here, or sold on the West Coast?
A lot of boats out here fit into one or two categories typically. One is you have a multi-species boat, which is typically an aluminum boat, probably 18 to 21 foot typically. And that boat is a bigger boat. It's designed to troll for kokanee, maybe stripers, that type of thing. Has a cabin. Those boats, typically get up to about 30, 40 miles an hour is about what they're designed to do, and they're good all-around purpose boats, but they're not fast. They're deeper water boats. On the other side, you have the bass boat, which is obviously a very sleek boat, very low profile. Designed for high speed, designed for
skinny water. Is that what this one is?
No, this has kind of both aspects to it. It has bass boat characteristics, but it also has the multi-species deep V characteristics. So in deeper water, I have a higher draft. So it allows me to, out in San Luis, when we get into big waves, I can still manage it, whereas a very low draft, like on a bass boat, you get in those big waves, and you might have waves coming completely over the top of your boat, and that's not good.
Not with this one, though.
This right here is designed for big water, and if you do the wrong things, you can get water into any boat. So,
yeah.
But this right here gives me speeds up to 60 miles an hour, but yet also big water capabilities in heavy wave action.
All right. Next photo here. What are we looking at there?
That's a striper. That's about a 20-pound striper that we got, and I was fishing with Dan Bacher, the editor of Fish Sniffer over at San Luis, and we ended up catching a couple of big fish, and that was one that we got out there by the pumps. And
there you are.
Here's another fish right here. This one was right around 25 pounds, I believe. I squinting into the sun, but that was a real nice fish and real healthy. You can see the stomach on it. And the fish are real healthy over there right now, and they're feeding very well. A lot of bait. That's a 30-pound striper that I got out of there in September, and that was a beautiful. That was just a prototypical beautiful fish. Not the biggest fish out of that lake, but it's one of the fish that people look for.
When their bellies are this big, what is that? What's an indication of what?
They're feeding and they're growing very well. So we have a lot of food in there, And what the fish are feeding on over at San Luis is interesting. They feed a lot on your regular threadfin shad, which is a small shad, but they also feed on the juvenile American shad, which are the adolescents, and also the really big American shad, which get up to 3 or 4 pounds. They can eat them. And there's also shrimp that are in, freshwater shrimp that are in San Luis, and that's a fairly new phenomenon, and that gives them another source of protein. So they're doing very well. That's a 25-pound fish over there that I was guiding. Here is Bill Gilardi out of Los Banos, and that was a beautiful fish that we were able to pick up. And
now you toss these back, right?
We put back just about all of them. This one here ended up dying on us right here. The other fish, the two before this, we let go, and you know, there are ways to get them. And since this trip, I have some new tools that I use specifically to put big fish back. This is another picture of the picture we just saw. This is his son, and this is just a fun picture. This is William, his son, and about 12 years old, and holding that fish.
Wow.
This is another. This is Nolan Sorensen, and he got about a 14, 15-pound fish that we got here just about 2 months ago, and then another fish around 12 pounds here.
What's the normal catch, the size, let's say? Is it this one here?
No, these guys right here, this is on the upper side. What we have is, that right there is more the normal size that you're looking at there. That's probably about a 24-inch fish. And most of your fish over there right now, we have a huge number of fish that are in the 19 to 23-inch range. And those fish, we had a huge spawn here, like I say, 4 or 5 years ago. And we have a big class of fish that are in that category. So that was the Roosevelt Fishing Club that I went out and took them out, and that little gal actually ended up winning the tournament. That's a 30-pound fish that I got over there last year, and that guy I let go, and that was a beautiful fish.
Yeah, it looked like it. How about this one here?
That one is over 30 pounds, and I was by myself, and it was in the evening, and anyhow, I took a picture of him and unhooked it and let it go.
Let him go?
Yeah.
Yeah. What was that, a bass? Or?
That was a regular, that's another striper right there.
Striper.
And then
Okay.
this is a fish that was close to 30 pounds that I got in the fall. So we had quite a few fish last year that were in the 20 up to 30-pound category, and this is a friend of mine, Greg Meyerson, and he is the current world record holder for the biggest striper in the world, 81.8 pounds.
That's
and
gigantic.
This fish
Wow.
right here was almost close to 100. This is the catch and release world record. There's two categories. He didn't want to kill this fish. This fish, his world record 81-pound fish was 54 inches. This was 56 inches. And on the scale they had on the boat, it topped out close to 100, and they let it go. And Greg didn't want to go through. Whenever you get a record, IGFA record, it is an extremely difficult process. And he just didn't want to go through the process again and kill the big fish at the same time. So this is an unbelievable, he's 6'4", he's a big guy. So you can imagine, you can't hold a fish like that out like some people do. You don't hold a close to 100-pound fish out in front of you. So that's a real deal.
Yeah, that is amazing. What year was that, by the way?
That fish was 3 years ago.
3 years ago. And
Yeah.
this one here?
And that right there was the current world record. And I was back there. I went back and fished with Greg for 5 days a year and a half ago, and he's a good friend of mine. And anyhow, I've learned a lot from him, and that was one of the ones he had that was mounted. And he has 3 world records, and he's actually considered to be the greatest living striper fisherman in the world. So
where does he go fishing, by the way?
He's out of Connecticut, and he goes out in Long Island Sound and fishes out there off the reefs, and he's got a lot of big giant fish. This is a friend of mine right here with another fish that was 30. This was 30, just right at 33 pounds, and it was just a giant fat fish that we got. And his record before this was like 15 pounds, so he more than doubled his record in one catch. He was a pretty excited guy. His name was Andy Bedell.
Mm-hmm. Amazing.
Good friend of mine.
Hey, here's another big one right here.
Yeah, we had that one too.
Look at the stomach on that one.
Yep. No, there's some. We've had some big fat fish. So that's the good news. And this fish right here is probably right at 30 pounds also.
Yeah, and so these fish, they're not, they're not missing a meal, it looks like.
No,
to me, they are big. They got big bellies, which means they're feeding.
Yes. A lot of those big stripers right there actually feed on little small stripers, so that a lot of people don't realize that they can eat them pretty easily. So they don't believe in family values. They eat them.
They eat them. They don't care.
No.
All right, Roger George is here. 436-MeTV option 11. Hey, if you want to call in, you can. Today's program sponsored by Dr. Thomas Casagrande. We're back in a moment with our On the Air, Off the Presses segment. At 20/20 Optometric, your vision is their focus. Whether you're 5 or 65, Dr. Thomas Casagrande will get to know you, your lifestyle, and vision needs to ensure that your contacts or eyeglasses are a perfect fit and the right prescription every time. With the Valley's largest selection of eyewear, 20/20 has over 2,000 frames, including top designer brands like Coach, Tiffany, Prada, Ray-Ban, Oakley, and more. Eye exams start as low as $89, so call or stop by to schedule your appointment today.
Attention all units. We have reports of 2 motorcycle cops protecting California's highways.
That's for us, good buddy.
The Men of Chips are on MeTV.
Hi, I'm John Baker. I'm John Baker. It's Officer Baker.
He's the blonde one.
Hi there.
Officer Poncherello, man.
Frank Poncherello.
Oh, I'm Frank Poncherello.
And he's the one who's Eric Estrada.
There's no way I wouldn't remember a name like that.
Catch the blonde one and the one who's Eric Estrada on
Now
Chips.
on MeTV Fresno, Xfinity 187.
Thanks to Dr. Thomas Casagrande for his sponsorship today. Here's a question for you. Have you ever landed a sturgeon?
I have landed one up in the bay, up in the mothball fleet. We caught one up there about 40 pounds. But out of there are sturgeon in Millerton, of course, and well, there's a few of them up there. And the only one we have that we can actually certify was about 5 years ago, and the guy snagged a sturgeon. It weighed about 80, 90 pounds, and he got it in. And a biologist happened to be in the area.
Dang.
And they saw it, certified it was a sturgeon, and let it go. But their sturgeon in their DFW is telling us that that there's actually sturgeon in Millerton that are probably 300 pounds.
Yeah, I think you mentioned this the last time you were here, talking about the sturgeon at the bottom of Millerton there,
Yes.
that are just gigantic. We can't verify that unless we drain the lake, and we're not going to do that.
Yeah.
But it's amazing to think that sturgeon are in Millerton. How'd they get there?
Well, they were in the San Joaquin River, and so that was number one. So when they dammed it off, there was a chance that they were in there. But we know for a fact that when they did the first plant of stripers back in the early 1950s, that they actually inadvertently put in probably 8 or 10 sturgeon in with the batch of stripers. And the biologists that were actually there when they dumped them in, I've interviewed them, and they actually certified that there were actually some sturgeon, small ones, that went in. So they've been there for a long time.
So the sturgeon grow and grow to the biggest size of what, 300 pounds?
No, they get up to 1,000.
1,000 pounds?
They can be up there. In fact, back in the old days up in Sacramento, they used to have a team of horses, and they'd actually get them on and then pull them out. And I think the record is, well over 1,000 pounds offhand. I forget, but there's some incredible pictures.
More to talk about here. I want to take one of 3 fishing videos. Pick any one you want there, and we'll roll the videotape and let Roger George explain exactly what we're looking at here. This is one of your fishing trips. Where is this? What lake?
This is over in San Luis this last year, and that fish was right around 22, 23 pounds. I just unhooked it, brought it in, and that was, I believe, one of the fish that we saw earlier. I think that was Bill Gilardi's fish, but you can see what a beautiful fish it was. And we put it in the live well to try to revive it there because it really was bellying up real quickly. And
I'm just wondering, when you have an opportunity to do a photo op like this with one of the fish that you've caught, has it ever happened that another fish is actually leaping out of the water at the same time and photobombing your photobomb?
John, you obviously haven't gone fishing very much, have you? No, what's funny?
I want to know if another striper has photobombed your picture.
Yeah, well, actually, it's interesting, but you'll actually get sometimes stripers. You'll fight one up, and another one, maybe a much bigger one, will come swimming up there up right beside it, right up next to the boat. They'll actually follow it right up. And so sometimes you'll have a fish that might be twice as big as a big fish like that, some monster, and there it is.
And why do they do that? Why do they follow? For what reason? Do we know?
They think that the other one has something that they'd like to eat. So they follow it around, and also during spawning season, you may have a male-female, a scenario too. So that happens. We've had that happen many times, where you'll see a big fish follow up another fish.
Another piece of videotape here, and we'll roll it, and Roger will tell us what we're looking at here again at San Luis, or what?
Yeah, this is San Luis here, and this was just a couple of months ago. We had this guy right here. I had a friend of mine, Jordan Combs, that was out fishing with me, and I hooked this fish. We got him up next to the boat there, and we're trying to take care of him and make sure he goes back, and we did. We put him back, and we're keeping him in the water for a reason, so that he can survive and keep some oxygen. And this is Jordan trying to use what we call a boga grip to get a hold of him, but he was unsuccessful, so we ended up actually bringing the fish in so we could get the hook out of its mouth, and you'll see when it comes in how big it is. It was right at 30 pounds, but we really didn't weigh it. It was 42 inches. So, but it was just a really beautiful, big fish. And here he is bringing the thing in, and you can see that when you put it down here, just how big it is.
Now, when you bring it out of the water like that, how long can it survive?
Depends on how hard it's fought. If it's like somebody that ran a mile. If they ran a mile super hard, and you cut off their oxygen for a little while, they might die pretty quick. If they still had some energy, they'll last a little longer. That's about the best example, because these guys have usually fought really hard for a period of time, and they're exhausted. So you got to help them. You got to help them revive, and they can handle a little bit, but not too long.
Yeah.
A minute or so.
Now, you have separate containers that you can put these fish in before you throw them out, right?
Well, that live well, and you saw the picture a little while ago where we put that one in that container. It has water, oxygenated water, flowing in there, so that keeps the fish oxygenated and keeps it in the water.
Till you throw it back in.
Till we put it back in, yeah. And then we have other techniques that we use to put it back too.
Hey, roll another piece of videotape here before we go to break, and then we want to talk about what's on this tape. And again, same place?
So this is over at San Luis, and this is just this is a regular size striper right here, just to show what a regular one looks like. And usually we use the boga grip because those hooks on those lures.
Oh wow!
It's got 3 treble hooks on it. If you reach down with your hand, you're gonna have trouble. That fish is probably about 22 inches and weighs probably about 3.5 pounds. That's normal.
There are some people that would do anything to catch a fish like that, and we've seen, of all the pictures and the video, we've seen some gigantic stripers that are like 40 inches long that weigh up to what 30, 40 pounds.
Yeah.
And this is but there are many fishermen out there that would do anything to catch one like this.
A lot of guys, they would consider this to be a really nice fish right there, and a lot of guys from shore.
And you would throw something like that back? Or?
Oh yeah, absolutely. We were fishing. Well, at that size fish, we're putting all of them back. And I practice catch and release, so I put them back. And yesterday we were fishing. We got into a really incredible bite yesterday. And we also were doing some of the right things, but we caught 45 of those yesterday. So that's a pretty incredible number.
So it doesn't matter the size, catch and release is pretty much the routine.
That's the routine. I try to practice that. And you can imagine after a while, myself as a guide, you could get yourself in big trouble. And you could really decimate a fishery. The limit is 2 fish over 18 inches. Almost all the fish we're catching are over. They're 19, 20, 21, 22 inches. Yeah. So the average, but once again, we're out there for the sport of it, and we're trying to conserve it for everybody else.
Got to take a break. We're with Roger George of the Fresno Bee, and he writes a column every Wednesday. You can catch it in the sports section of the Bee. It's a great column. He's an expert. 436 MeTV option 11. Dr. Thomas Casagrande, our sponsor today. Back in a moment.
Now we'll find out once and for all about Clark Kent, the Superman.
Look up in the sky. It's a bird. It's a plane. It's a TV show.
Yes, but who is he? What's his name?
He's Superman.
Golly, Clark, won't that be wonderful seeing Superman?
Fighting a never-ending battle for truth, justice, and television the MeTV way.
No one can do the things that Superman does.
The Adventures of Superman.
Now on MeTV Fresno, Xfinity 187.
When you like Ventura TV Appliance on Facebook, it's nice. But when you love the KitchenAid appliances we deliver, it's even better. Our website is cool, and it's a good place to start, but you really should touch the merchandise before you buy. Save big with KitchenAid. Right now, get up to a $1,000 prepaid MasterCard when you purchase select KitchenAid appliances. Get the best selection, price, and service in town without waiting. Come in to Ventura TV Appliance and touch the merchandise today.
Back here on the program today, Thomas Casagrande, our sponsor. And let me just tell you before I get to the next piece of videotape here, Roger, the extent of my knowledge, and I'm going to preface this by saying there is a question coming after this, but I just want to make a comment. Here's what I know about fishing. You obviously have a fishing rod, a line, you maybe have a worm for bait, toss it out there, and you wait. You wait and wait and wait, and sometimes you wait a long time and you catch nothing, or you can reel the big one in. Now, in golf, we know you can go to the golf course and hire an instructor and take golf lessons. Where can you go for fishing lessons? Is there such a place?
Yeah, and that's why you hire a guide most of the time.
Like yourself?
Like myself. And,
okay.
and you know, you didn't tell me this was coming. You
like that?
I like the way you handled that. No, you know, I have a lot of people that are actually a lot of good striper fishermen that have reached a plateau. They're catching the same fish, same size fish, catching a few. And they'll hire me, and we'll go out and we'll try to take them to the next level.
Now, what do you charge to go out? Is there a fee for all this?
Yeah, you know, the problem is San Luis is an hour and a half away from here, dragging a boat, and it's difficult. And you know, spending a whole day, no matter what you do, you're stuck over there for a day.
Yeah.
But for two guys for a whole day, I charge $5.75.
That's cheap for a whole day.
You know, if you look at the amount of money people spend to go over there and catch one or two fish. And you do that, if you do that trip after trip, and if you could increase your number of fish by 500%, how much is that worth to you? You know, you can spend a lot of trips trying to learn what you're doing, but once again, you're no better than your own ability.
Listen, a trip to Pismo, okay, a weekend trip to Pismo could cost you much more than that.
Absolutely.
You know, if you stay 2 nights, you got the hotel, you've got food, you've got gas, you've got souvenirs, you got whatever, it's going to cost you more than $5.75. I guarantee it will. With those hotel rates over there,
well,
I guarantee you.
A lot of guys don't know how to use their electronics. They don't know how to use their downrigger. They don't know what the right equipment is. They don't know what the right lures are. They don't know how to look at conditions. Those are all the things that I try to put together and show them why that works. And like yesterday, a lot of people were catching, you know, 2, 3 fish, maybe 4.
Small ones.
And they were smaller ones in a lot of cases. We ended up, we caught 45 yesterday. And we really had but it's the little things that make all the difference, like everybody knows.
Let me ask you real quick, and it's kind of a trick question. So what are you doing differently that everybody else is not doing?
Well, I'm paying attention to a lot of the fine details that they're not paying attention to, and I'm using my electronics, you know, very specifically.
Which they don't know how to use, which you mentioned.
They typically are not, they're not looking at what the information is telling them. And then number 2 is targeting. I very specifically target, and I know by ratios of like how deep I'm going, you know, what speed, you know, what lures do, what colors do.
Wow.
So there's a lot of factors, and they're constantly changing. As the sun comes up, clouds come over, all these things change by the hour.
I want to talk about a device that's, I don't know how new it is on the market. You know, I want to roll a videotape here. It's called the Sequelizer. And basically this helps fish do what when they come up from the deep water?
Well, it's called a Sequelizer, and it has the word equalizer in it, and it was designed specifically for a lot of fish that are caught at great depths. And so,
how far deep? How far down?
Here, this is a rock cod, and a lot of rock cod are caught from probably from 80 down to 500 feet. When those fish come up, they get the bends just like a skin diver would coming up. So what happens is the pressure at depth is really high, as people know. If you bring a fish up really quickly, then it's going to do the same thing that a skin diver would do. It's going to basically almost die because the internal pressure is so much greater than the external
on the internal
pressure.
organs.
On the internal organs. And so their air bladder will just absolutely explode, and the pressures inside of them are amazing, and so they really cannot go back down. They're almost like a person with a life preserver on them that's stuck on the top.
What does this sequelizer do?
Well, what it does is it's right here. You'll see it. It's attached to the line right there, and you see that it's
Is that
a
it
clip.
right there?
That's it right there, and you can see what this guy did is he put that fish. It clips onto the front of the fish, and so you can clip it onto their mouth, and then go ahead and put it down like he did right there with the weight back down. So that fish gets down to the depth where you caught it, or close to it. Well, the pressure down there equalizes. All that pressure is now equalized. The fish's bladder and all this comes back to normal size. He's not exploding like a bomb from inside, and he can now swim away or recover at that depth, and he'll never come back up again unless he's injured badly.
Yeah, back in his normal environment safely. Hey, another new device. I want to hold this up in front of the camera. It is called a Water Wolf. This is it right here. It's a little camera. Let's roll a videotape. We'll show you exactly what we're talking about. That's the device right there. But Roger, you have one here. What does this do? It's like a camera down. How far down does this go?
Well, this camera right here can actually go down to as much as 100 meters, 300 feet.
Okay.
And what it does is it actually can connect to your line. And right here you see a picture of the camera on the line right in front of a lure. And you can see that great big fish in the back, a pike, that's actually following it. And what this camera allows us to do is actually film the behavior of the fish and the action of the lure, so we can actually see what's going on.
And what advantage does that give a fisherman?
Well, like right here, you're seeing this fish, he's following it along, watching it, and what'll happen is you'll see this fish do all kinds of different things. He'll follow it and grab it. But what's interesting about fish behavior is a lot of times they'll come up and actually, the big fish you'll see them come up and try to smell around the lure. You never think that. They'll come up and actually touch it and kind of move around it, and then they'll rotate around and come back and get it. Those are things that you can't see with any other system. Also, this right here can be attached to your line, and on a bigger pole you can actually cast this out, and when you're reeling your lure back in, you can be having pictures taken of exactly what's going on underwater.
And how far down does this go?
It goes down to 300 feet. You could actually do that. But inside of this little camera, in the back end here is a place for an SD card, and you can put it in there and then turn it on, hook it onto your line. There's an attachment that goes on your line.
Can you watch a live picture of this on your boat?
No, but I can take out the SD card after I take a few casts or troll around for a while, put it in my computer, and run the whole thing and see exactly what happens. I can also hear.
Within a couple of minutes.
Within just literally a minute, I can see, and also I can hear what's going on. And you'll be amazed that you can hear the action of the plug under the water and the differences at different speeds, what it actually means and what the fish are hearing.
Okay, we're out of time. I do want to go out with you on a boat sometime, do a whole show out there almost.
We're not going to bring any worms, John.
No worms.
No worms.
Right. Roger George, thank you. I appreciate it. That was a good show.
Hey, you bet.
Outstanding. All right, Roger George of the Fresno Bee. You can contact him. What's the phone number real quick?
905-2954.
All right. Roger George of the Fresno Bee catches column each and every Wednesday in the sports section. Back tomorrow. We're talking raisins here in the Central Valley. It is the beginning. It's that time of year. See you tomorrow. Have a great day.